Chalamet's rise in Hollywood is emblematic of a sea change in Hollywood's idea of the leading man.
Elio, what are you doing?
Reading my music.
No, you're not.
Thinking, then.
Far from the rugged, masculine, all-American captain of the football team type, Chalamet is what would have until recently been termed alternative. He's less macho and more Mr. Sensitive, softer, skinnier, with some more traditionally feminine features, and experimental, often gender-fluid fashion choices.
They told me it's called a bib, so.
You're like a fashionista.
Along with Harry Styles in music, he represents today's version of the androgynous sex symbol.
I figured if I wore this crazy jacket, I'd be like a shirt or something, but.
In some ways, the androgynous male sex symbol isn't new. In Hollywood, and even more so in the music world, androgynous stars have at times been celebrated. Just look at rock gods Mick Jagger and David Bowie.
Do you get fan mail? Yes, a lot. I seem to draw a lot of fantasies out of people.
But centering this figure in stories we see on screen today signals a mainstream shift into a new era, one that's less black and white about gender and that expects men to be sensitive, kind, and open.
I love writing, and I feel like I'm good at it.
Here's our take on Timothée Chalamet's role in making the gender-fluid sex symbol a 21st century icon of masculinity.
You see, I've spent most of my life in Europe.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about all of our new videos. This video is brought to you by Skillshare, an awesome online learning community with thousands of classes to help you develop your curiosity and passions. The first 1,000 people to use the link in our description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. So check it out now and start exploring your creativity.
So what do you do around here?
Read books, transcribe music, swim at the river.
Timothée Chalamet's meteoric rise to fame throughout the 2010s, from emerging character actor to one of Hollywood's hottest properties, has coincided with a bigger transformation in what a leading man looks like. Speaking about Chalamet's ascendancy, Vogue's Douglas Greenwood writes, "In 2019, being soft is cooler than being a womanizing, hard-edged hero."
I love this, Oliver.
Chalamet has been cited as exemplifying the modern trend of the soft boy, with Cosmopolitan's Emma Batty naming him alongside Lucas Hedges, the Sprouse brothers, and Jarrell Jerome as actors I'd describe as beautiful rather than hot.
I'm just gonna lock into you to feel less.
You're so dreamy.
In 2016, journalist Ann T. Donahue coined the term art throb when writing about another of our millennium's defining male icons, Harry Styles.
How would you define kink?
I think it's about enjoyment and about fun, no judgment, and I don't know, having fun with clothes.
She argued that Styles' popularity wasn't specifically due to his days as a teen heartthrob in One Direction, but inextricably linked to Styles being a weirder, more alternative figure, and crucially, someone who lives their art.
Both my music and fashion main influence was probably Shania Twain.
Timothée Chalamet is contemporary film's defining example of the art throb. His popularity is, in part, due to an idea of him as a complex, multifaceted artist and personality off-screen.
The best thing you can do is just fail. That's more juice for your art. That's more inspiration.
In his breakout role of Elio in 2017's Call Me By Your Name, Chalamet not only showcases what a talented actor he is, but also the fact that he's multilingual and musically adept.
Non mi sembra ineducato come dice later.
He arrived in Italy 6 weeks before the start of filming to brush up on his Italian and learn the piano and guitar parts his character Elio plays in the film.
I just played it the way Busoni would have played it if he'd altered Liszt's version.
The fact that it's obvious he's not faking these skills furthers Chalamet's mythology, which is bound up with our feelings about the character.
Sounds nice.
In Elio, Chalamet was given the perfect vehicle for presenting an idea of a contemporary masculinity, one of a noticeably European mold that's engaged in both culture and in life, sensitive and self-searching.
Is it better to speak or to die?
I'll never have the courage to ask a question like that.
Elio's story of becoming a man is a voyage of self-discovery, learning to get in touch with his desires and understand who he wants to be as a man through his relationship with Oliver.
Oh, I think he was better than me. I'm sure he'd say the same thing about you.
And the final message of the movie, embodied especially in that long final shot of Elio feeling his heartbreak, is that the trick to staying alive is to stay with our feelings and not shut off when it gets painful.
There's sorrow, pain. Don't
Chalamet often takes on roles that feed this image of him as a sensitive artistic type, whether that's with a more earnest tone or a playful one, like as French New Wave-esque student revolutionary in Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch.
What do they want? Freedom. Full stop.
I'm naked, Mrs. Clemens.
In 2018's Beautiful Boy, he plays Nick, a writer battling a debilitating drug and alcohol addiction, whose walls are adorned with posters of David Bowie, Nirvana, and the Beatles.
Kind of into other things now, you know?
Reading misanthropes and seriously depressed writers.
Oh, come on, they're kind of great though, right?
While the movie goes to dark, challenging places, it also highlights his artistic potential and titular beauty.
So this is a poem by Charles Bukowski. This man saved my life multiple times.
In Lady Bird, Chalamet shows his self-aware, ironic side with a send-up of the soft boy type he's associated with.
I wasn't flirting.
Wish she had been.
Bass-playing bookish hipster Kyle appears not miles away from Elio or Nick, but while he harks back to bad boy crushes of movies past who soften thanks to love, Kyle remains a douchebag.
You said you were a virgin.
I didn't, because I'm not. And I haven't lied in 2 years.
This is the dark shadow version of the soft boy as he exists in today's psyche, a jerk who's just faking these cool new masculine cues to sleep with women.
Lady Bird, which you're fantastic in, and
I'm nothing like that guy in real life, I promise.
And the takeaway of Kyle is that all these characteristics Chalamet represents don't mean anything if they're not built on a foundation of simply being a nice person who cares about other people.
You're deciding to be upset.
No, I am upset.
Because you're deciding to be. Don't be mad at me for this, it's stupid. You can't be mad at me for something I have no control over.
As Batty writes for Cosmopolitan, the best thing about soft boys is that they're actual softies, citing examples like Chalamet bringing bagels to fans waiting for the premiere of The King as evidence that he's truly thoughtful. If his roles in Call Me By Your Name, Beautiful Boy, and Lady Bird define Chalamet's artistry, sensitivity, and self-mockery, his turn as Laurie in Little Women alluded to his forward-thinking fashion choices.
And as there's no time like the present.
Please, this is my stratagem. I deserve the blame.
Throughout the film, Laurie and Saoirse Ronan's Joe swap clothes, a choice that costume designer Jacqueline Duran says emphasizes a back and forth of fluidity between them.
Laurie and Joe are constantly exchanging clothes.
Jacqueline had them trade clothes the whole movie.
Chalamet worked with Duran to help choose Laurie's outfits and define his look for the movie, once again building that deeper layer of connection between characters' tastes and his own. Chalamet's style, as exemplified by Laurie, harks back to the idea of the Victorian dandy. Dandyism was all about fine clothes, elegance, and what Charles Baudelaire described as the aristocratic superiority of mind, a way for the middle classes to dress up and almost cosplay as royalty.
With your money, talent, beauty, and health.
Oh, you think I'm beautiful.
Oh, yes, you like that, you old vanity.
This manifested in the kinds of outfits we see Chalamet and others of his generation embracing on the red carpet. Bright colors, embroidery, floral patterns, colorful linings, and an overall impression that after the Victorian era would come to read as feminine, as men's fashion became increasingly dull and colorless. The Guardian's Priya Ilan argues that the resurgence of dandyism today is due to a real-world reckoning against all forms of toxic masculinity.
Oh, we got nails tonight?
Oh yeah, we always have nails.
I will say together, they have this quality of they're both beautiful and they're both handsome. They're kind of androgynous creatures.
Timothée Chalamet's androgyny isn't exactly new in Hollywood, but there's not a long history of androgynous men being elevated to top billing. We can spot a few more examples of classic Hollywood championing androgynous women, beginning with Marlene Dietrich, once the highest paid actress on Paramount's books. Actresses like Julie Andrews, Katharine Hepburn, Greta Garbo, Diane Keaton, and more recently Tilda Swinton have all played iconic roles that accentuate a more alternative androgynous look or a gender-bending plot.
There can be no doubt about his sex, despite the feminine appearance that every young man of the time aspires to.
Meanwhile, male androgyny or gender bending on screen has historically been either comedic.
You know, I'm feeling fabulous because I met this beautiful Cuban. Every night is like the bait of pigs.
Or villainous.
He's making himself a woman's suit, Mr. Crawford, out of real women.
Not taken seriously as a valid part of a man's identity. Where male androgyny really found its home in the 20th century was rock and roll. It's started with Elvis Presley, who Tim Summer writes, succeeded because he was the first white boy singer who looked like a pretty white girl. Elvis wore eyeliner, gyrated his hips, and was a conscious departure from the more besuited conservative musicians who came before him. Elvis's success spurred the growing link between male androgyny and rock and roll, and effeminate clothing helped fuel the idea of rock and roll as counterculture. Mick Jagger, who credits Elvis, Little Richard, and even the LGBT theater community with helping define his look, used clothing choices to mark himself as a rebel. The BBC wrote that he entered a foppish dandy phase, sporting top hats, scarves, jewelry, ruffled shirts, and velvet coats, which poo-pooed the priggish, masculine codes of the establishment.
Mick, how do you move around in public?
Sort of with a twist and a spin.
No, I know.
Notable cinematic examples of male androgyny have often come when these same rock stars crossed over into acting, like with the queer subtext in Elvis's Jailhouse Rock,
Number 47 said to number 3, you the cutest jailbird I ever did see.
or Mick Jagger in Performance, or David Bowie in Labyrinth. Straight up Hollywood leading men, though, they tended to play it, well, straight. In the strong, stoic, macho heroes that James Stewart, Rock Hudson, Clark Gable, and later Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Dustin Hoffman would play, there was less room for alternative examples of what masculinity could be.
Whatever happened to Gary Cooper? The strong, silent type.
James Dean was a notable exception. His breakout role as emotional lost Jim Stark in 1955's Rebel Without a Cause felt like a conscious challenge to traditional ideas of manhood.
You're tearing me apart!
James Dean opened a door for the reimagining of the male star, says writer India Ross. He gave early shape to a model that would take decades to take hold. The decades that followed did present us with a handful of male characters dabbling in otherness, like Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon as Sonny, an androgynous man performing a version of hypermasculinity.
I don't want to talk to some flunky pig trying to calm me.
Or Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise leaning into a more feminine beauty in 1994's Interview with a Vampire.
Where are we going?
Nowhere.
In the 2000s, Johnny Depp debuted his swashbuckling pirate Jack Sparrow, memorable for his over-the-top wardrobe, heavy eyeliner, and fluid gender identity.
But why?
You were the only pirate I thought I would pass for.
In a performance that channeled Keith Richards.
The one that I thought would fit the bill was Keith Richards.
While these performances certainly paved the way for Timothée Chalamet, they were outliers. Today, at last, we're seeing the James Dean model that India Ross describes has taken hold.
I'm Harry Styles. I'm a singer, sort of a sensual fashion man, and you could say I do it for everyone.
Timothée Chalamet's brand of soft leading man is now mainstream. With Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Dune, he's been given the keys to a major blockbuster.
That makes me not worried about, like, the big budget nature of it all. Like, it's just, there's so much there, and like, the themes are so...
Oh, it's epic.
The ascendancy of Chalamet and the qualities he represents, artistry, softness, femininity, mark a broader change in what Hollywood wants from its male stars.
I'll not allow this havoc to transpire. Come to see it stopped. This is my battle. If I have my way, there will be no battle.
Take our dueling soft boy heroes of Stranger Things, brooding, sensitive Jonathan Byers and Steve Harrington, whose plot forces him to leave behind the toxic masculinity of the stereotypical high school cool guy.
You look great, okay? Now you're gonna go in there. Yeah. You look like $1 million.
Yeah.
And you're gonna slam dead.
Or Otis in Sex Education, a skinny, awkward hero who wins other characters over thanks to his mind and thoughtfulness.
Who's this guy?
Oh, it's not like that, Sam. He's non-threatening. He's like a Care Bear.
The most beloved male characters of today's biggest blockbusters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe are defined by quirky silliness as much as machismo.
What are you doing?
Dance off, bro! Me and you!
And while the buff, rugged, masculine ideal still has a central place in these and other popular movies, even Chris Evans, who plays the archetypal all-American man Captain America, publicly expresses a softer, more artistic, progressive persona. When considering how this redefinition of masculinity has come about, it's impossible to ignore the impact of the Fab Five. Starting in 2003, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy popularized the metrosexual, a man interested in fashion, grooming, skincare, or anything previously assumed to be only for women or gay men.
I think guys can be just as vain and self-conscious about their look as women.
Though Though the tongue-in-cheek idea of the metrosexual suggested a new way to be masculine, it still implied that the dominant form of masculinity wasn't interested in these things.
What is a mojito pedicure?
It's sort of like a normal pedicure with the addition of mint.
Starting in 2018, the Netflix revival Queer Eye returned to a very different landscape, where the idea of the metrosexual has gone out of fashion, in part because the lessons Queer Eye teaches about fashion, emotional awareness, intersectionality, and vulnerability have been far more widely adopted.
The original show was fighting for tolerance. Our fight is for acceptance.
My goal is to figure out how we're similar as opposed to how different we are.
What once made men alternative now is increasingly expected of them.
Tell me what you think is wrong with what he wears.
If ordinary were a style, you would be just short of ordinary. And
we call it a basic
Timothée Chalamet has come of age at exactly the right time.
The best dressed man in the world.
No, not true.
How do you feel about that?
Very
uncomfortable.
Not expecting that, very random.
An awakening is underway around issues of intersectionality, sexuality, and gender norms across all industries and art forms.
He's going to wear this outfit to the VMAs.
We've been using a lot of different materials that you don't see a lot of men using.
We're seeing a normalization of discussing preferred pronouns and an increasing number of performers who identify as transgender or non-binary, like Ezra Miller, Elliot Page, Miley Cyrus, and Sam Smith.
I've always felt non-binary my whole life.
Musicians like Lil Nas X and Frank Ocean have challenged entrenched homophobia in the music industry through their work and public expressions. And TV is increasingly reflecting the world through characters who are transitioning.
Even though you've always thought of me as a girl, I'm a boy.
Non-binary.
My pronouns are they, theirs, and them.
Androgynous and pansexual.
I like the wine and not the label.
Of course, there's still a long way to go. Part of the reason Chalamet has risen to the top so quickly is undeniably because, despite his femme looks, he is a straight, cisgender white male, one who rose to fame playing a bisexual character.
You had a beautiful friendship. Maybe more than a friendship.
The phenomenon of straight actors playing gay or bi characters is increasingly debated, while the long-standing norm of cisgender actors playing transgender characters and often winning awards in the process is now widely viewed as damaging in a landscape where so few roles are available to trans actors.
We are not okay with this, and we're more than capable of not only telling our own stories, but telling stories in general.
But in addition to the importance of creating more opportunities for gender non-conforming characters and actors, there's also the question of what message Hollywood's leading men send more generally about how any man should present or behave in today's society. Timothée Chalamet marks a milestone in the gender-fluid sex symbol's journey from subversive rock and roll all the way to mainstream Hollywood. And his success sends the message that the ideal guy of the 21st century is, above all, just a sweet human being.
I have an idea of how we can manage.
This is The Take on your favorite movie, shows, and culture.
Thank you so much for watching and for supporting us.
Please subscribe and never miss a take.
Thanks so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. If you're looking to learn a new skill and are searching for a community of fellow creatives, Skillshare will give you both. They offer thousands of affordable classes designed to fit your schedule, with short video lessons that you can pause and come back to at any time. One Skillshare original you can check out right now is YouTuber Marques Brownlee's class on how to script, storyboard, shoot, and edit to build your own successful YouTube videos. Marques will take you through his journey from creating videos in his parents' basement to building a base of 13 million subscribers and counting. Right now, Skillshare is offering our viewers a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. But that's only if you're one of the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description below. So join today and jumpstart your creative journey for less than $10 a month with an annual subscription.